It is now Tuesday, November 21st. I have just finished doing my washing after trying to get it clean from the typhoon, and I'm waiting for it to dry. We got 2 tapes today from you today, and your letter, which indicated that you knew about our typhoon. We tried very hard to get a letter off to you just as soon as we could. The letter, which I hope you've received, was gotten off the earliest possible date. We have not been receiving mail, and we've been having trouble getting mail to go out. We received mail today, and it was sopping wet. I don't know where it had been, or how, or where, but it was all wet. I'll try now to review probably quite a bit of what I've told you in the letters, but it might make things a little clearer for you. I don't know whether to go backwards or forward. I'll say that we had another typhoon after Gilda, which was a scare. It was aiming right towards Rota, and just thank God it didn't hit us. I think every house would have been gone if it had hit. It was Typhoon Hariet. We spent another night in the cave because we were told that it was aiming straight for us. The winds were only 80 knots, which I guess can do quite a bit of damage. Our problem would be flying tin. There's so many parts of houses around now that if we get any high winds, they could really hurt people. So we're getting to know the typhoon caves pretty well. We've now spent 4 nights up there, not consecutively. I think I'll go back to a few days ago before the typhoon hit. What happens is the Anderson Air Force Base tracks the storms, and usually they have Air Weather Fleet Central or something like this, which gives out information. Usually we hear of a storm forming, maybe around Palau or something. If it starts to intensify and it's coming, we get a tropical storm condition 3. If it gets greater, we get a tropical storm condition 2, then tropical storm condition 1, and then we go into typhoon. Typhoon condition 3, typhoon condition 2, typhoon condition 1. And this is the way it went with Gilda. We knew ahead of time that it was coming. We thought that it was aiming straight for Guam, but 40 miles north of it would make it 80 miles from us. What happened was it veered off its course and didn't hit Guam. Guam had very little damage, and the eye came just about directly over Rota. By then, when we went to the cave, it was typhoon condition 1. We still thought that it was going to hit Guam. We took everything in our house. Everyone boards up their windows. I packed everything away in suitcases. I probably wouldn't have done this if the Girl Scouts hadn't have come over and helped me. It's hard to know what's going to happen exactly when you've never been through a typhoon. We went up to the cave, which I think I mentioned in the letter. It used to be a hospital for the Japanese. It's very safe, of course. People go to the cave or the church or stayed in their cement houses if they had them. It's open at 2 ends. We'll try to get a picture of it for you sometime. People just bring their mats and food. They'd said on the radio for people in Guam to take 3 days' supply of food, and Greg and I had brought this. We spent the night in the cave. About 3:30 in the morning, Greg heard on the radio not from the Guam station, which gave very poor news all during the typhoon, but from the Anderson Air Force Base station, which we were the only radio could get it. We got it very weakly. That the typhoon was aiming directly at Rota and had winds of 120 knots with gusts to 160 knots. In the morning, we started getting intense winds. We could just see leaves flying all over the place. The eye, it just got more and more and more. I think the eye passed over about 11:30. It grew very calm. It was calm for about half an hour. At this time, people went outside. Some people thought it was over. I tried to explain this was just the eye of the storm. We could see, Greg went out all the way out to our house, and the kitchen was completely demolished, but the house was still standing.
When the storm hit, the first part wasn't as bad. The worst part of the storm came after the eye, and the first thing that happened, the wind starts to blow, it starts to rain, and the first thing is all the leaves are blown off the trees. The air is just full of leaves, thousands of leaves, just like snow. Then the branches begin to break off and shatter, and coconuts are blown off the trees, and then pieces of tin start flying, roofs are ripped off, and they're really very dangerous. It's just like a giant razor blade flying through the air. Pieces of tin land in the tops of trees, and even a piece of tin can even cut a tree right in a coconut tree right in half when it gets moving about 100 or 120 miles an hour. They're just really terrible things. So you've got all this junk, oil drums and trash flying through the air, and it's really quite amazing. So anything that's loose starts to break away and go flying through the air. Then the eye of the storm came, and of course this was everything just stopped. It was amazing. It just stopped dead, and it got much brighter. It wasn't completely blue sky. The sun didn't come out or anything like this, but it was very bright, and everything just stopped, and you could look out of the cave, because before when it was blowing you couldn't see anything because there was so much spray and everything being blown off the ocean that it was just like a fog outside. So when the eye came, you could see, and you could look out of the ocean and see these huge, big, fantastic waves rolling in, crashing on the beach, and you could just look out and see all the pieces of broken houses and things like this. So I ran down to the house to see what had happened. It wasn't too far from the cave, so it only took me about 5 minutes to get down there. I came down to the eye to see if things were still there and so forth, and the house was still standing, but quite a few others were smashed, a lot of roofs off. And I didn't have very much time. The eye only lasted about 30-35 minutes, and I certainly didn't want to get caught back down there because I knew that the storm would lash back and I'd just be, in a very sticky situation. So I got back to the cave and just waited for the other part to blow, and it was just fantastic the way that wind came in. And this pretty near finished any weak building or anything just standing. We just got completely taken away along with our house. The whole thing was just destroyed. So
the winds were coming in one direction, and we knew that after the storm they would switch directions and come in the opposite direction. I'm not sure exactly where the directions are, so I can't tell you. The newspaper clippings we'll send will maybe indicate this. So after the eye, the winds were much worse. Even in the cave, we had to sit huddled with the children inside, and just sit all day while the winds just beat at us in the rain. And we were all tired. A lot of people, a lot of children. We were worried about. We had seen during the eye that the roof was off the hospital, that the post office was demolished. Some houses were off the concrete roofs. The convent had gone, and many people were sheltered in the convent. We learned later that they all went to the church, which was questionable, shaking a bit too, even though it's very strong. So we spent the next night. It was like that all day. Then we slept again in the cave. By this time, most everybody had run out of food. Greg and I had brought quite a bit, so we were able to share some of it. We just slept on the ground of the cave, on mats, and we really slept. The next day we came out, and it was quite a feeling. It looked like winter, you get very used to the green scenery and the leaves, and there were no leaves, just a few trees broken down, just houses that used to be, just not there. Our house was, you'll see pictures of it, just over on its side. The people here are much more cheerful than Americans, I think. I think if this had happened in the States, we would have seen everybody crying, but they sort of got to work. Everyone's been putting up temporary houses to sleep in. We were completely out of communication with anybody, of course. No, we didn't. We were short on food because the stores were out of food, but there was lots of meat that had been in freezers, and of course there was no water or anything. And then we went through that day just going around patching up. Greg worked on a survey of what the damage was all day, and I worked on moving what I could out of our house to shelter. And then the school was open for people who didn't have homes, and we went to live with one of the Chamorro families, slept in their house.
So we are now presently living with a Chamorro family. The man is one of the teachers at school. He's about 2 or 3 years older than I am, and his wife's about a year younger than the kid is. They have one child, and we were pretty good friends with them before, and they invited us to live with them, so we've been living in their house. Part of the roof is damaged. About a third of the roof is damaged. We have to repair this when we get a chance, but the rest of the house is still in pretty good shape, so everything's working out pretty fine as far as that goes. Now as to what we've been doing since the typhoon, immediate needs were, of course, the power was completely knocked out, and the water was cut off. So this was the immediate need, was to get the water back on. The day after the typhoon, Navy helicopter came in with a doctor and a sanitation engineer, and they came in and we talked to them and showed them around and tried to figure out what immediate needs we had. And they flew in medicine and gave people typhoid shots and really did a fantastic job. I really think the Navy and the Air Force did just marvelous, things that they brought in for the island and so forth. But anyway, within a day they finally got the water going. There was, I don't think the pipes were too badly damaged. There were some in the village, but the main pipe coming down wasn't. It was all clogged up with leaves and things. So they got the pipe going so people had water. And this was really a good thing because, people wouldn't be drinking bad water, and they had water to wash their clothes and this type of thing. So that was done. As of now, about a week and a half later, they've gotten some power restored to the government facilities up here, and they hope to have a lot of the power restored to the village within the next week, perhaps 2 weeks. But of course, a lot of houses are destroyed, so that they won't. Only the ones that are in good condition will be able to get the power. People have been living at the school. They've been living in almost any place they can find because housing is very short, and most all the government buildings up here were destroyed. The hospital, the roof was all taken off. The administration building was ruined. And fortunately, the contract teachers' houses up here weren't hurt at all. So this was very good. See, all the government buildings are up there on a hill, so they really get right in the way of the wind pretty easily, and they were really messed up. Peace Corps, 2 representatives from the Peace Corps came in, Dirk Barendorf and one of the fellows who was in our training group, who is now a photographer for the Peace Corps. He came in along with Commissioner Norwood and an assessment team from the Trust Territory to survey the damage and figure out what help would be done, and this type of thing. So they're very good, and they're going to get us squared away here.
The following day, a group of 17 people representing the Trust Territory came in. The High Commissioner, Norwood, and a group of other people. 2 people came from the Peace Corps to see if we were all right. And by then we had everything out of our house. And we were working on this survey, on helping. A man from the Red Cross came. We spent a day taking him around. Well, it's been like that ever since. Of course, we haven't had school. We won't have school for a couple more weeks yet, I don't think. It depends. Everyone just doesn't have a place to sleep, and the hospital's in a temporary building. Buildings are the biggest problems. There just aren't enough buildings. Now, maybe we'll be able to build some. There's all sorts of questions about what aid will come, if aid will come, when it will come, how it will come, whether or not we really need it.
But I did help him a little bit, and since then we've been going around. We took a survey of the damage. Then the man from the Red Cross came over here, and we spent a day showing him around and, talking to him about what these people needed and what had to be done and so forth. So there was a possibility they might get tents here for some of the people who didn't have a house. But this all fell through. They weren't able to get them. But as far as food goes, the food's just been pouring in here. They brought in tons of rice, flour, beans, canned goods, and clothing. The people from Guam, they took up a collection all over Guam, I think on the Air Force Base, the Naval Base, and all over the thing, and they sent over a lot of canned goods and a lot of clothes and shoes and this type of thing. So it's really been great. The people here are very lucky that they have such generous people on Guam who could send over all these things. So.
Right now, they had a drive in Guam for clothing and food, which has been coming in. What we really need is building materials. We really don't. We need these things, but not as much as we need building materials for places to sleep. But we've had food coming in: rice, flour, sugar, candy, canned goods, clothes. 2 rooms full of clothes. Greg and I have spent all our time sorting these clothes, giving out food, dividing it. It's taken us all day. We haven't had any chance to really think about exactly what we're going to do now. We have it in our minds to build a new house for ourselves, to get the materials and do this. I guess we'll try to get going on it this week. Right now we feel what we're doing is more important than that. The Peace Corps man said that our home was more important than anything. We were even supposed to not teach in order to work on that, but we just couldn't get started on it right away. There isn't anything to do. I mean, you can't start building a home when you don't have anything to build it with. So supplies, and out here, it's not that you don't have the money to buy something. It's just that it isn't here. So maybe I think they're bringing materials in today that we can buy up to $250 worth. It's under an aid program. We're not positive we're eligible, or if how the man whose house we're in, renting, will get it. I went around doing a survey of the village to see if tents and which houses needed tents to sleep in. With a lot of people sleeping out in the open, and we started getting rains. When this Typhoon Hariet was aimed right at us, we got a lot of rain. Our stuff got completely waterlogged for the second time. We still just about have everything, but it's in pretty bad shape. Our clothes are filthy, and I've been trying to get them clean. Everything sort of smells, and some stuff was broken, but it's managing all right. The people here there's a lot of work to do. A lot of them lost everything, lost their farms. So it's why we basically need the food. A lot of people don't have money to get anything now. Don't have the food from their farms. A lot of people lived off their farms. Almost everybody has a farm and lives off the food from it. And doesn't even use the stores at all, hardly, except for rice and some other things. Now, without this, it's difficult, even as far as just getting to the farms. The roads are blocked with trees down. We have water, electricity. They say will be coming soon if they get the lines up. They've brought in crews of work teams. It's been interesting seeing the Red Cross in action, and the Navy, and the Trust Territory, and the Air Force. I'm very disappointed in the Trust Territory. I mentioned this in a letter. The Navy came in to help, and the Trust Territory sort of said, well, we're in charge, and everything has been well, we're waiting. We don't want to fix anything up because we might get aid, and we're waiting. And Trust Territory said Mr. Norwood said that they were out of business, and they had to fix up the hospital and the school and the post office and administration buildings before they even thought about anybody's homes. As far as I'm concerned, when people are just sleeping out in the open, the coconut trees are down. You can't even build a house out of coconut fronds. It's more important that people get shelter than that we get a post office or municipal building or whatever right away. So the donations from people in Guam who've sent food and clothing and things. This is and the Red Cross man who's came around and looked at the situation, helped with what was needed, getting materials over here, supplies, things we need. The Air Force, I think, is sending over the building material. I'm not sure where this all's come from. I'm going to find out later, but it's been quite something to see what can be done to help in this situation, and yet what isn't done. So many people who say, wait, maybe we'll get aid, like Norwood, and it's just interesting to see what's effective and what isn't. I don't know quite what more to say about that. I suppose later on we might have a little clearer perspective. It's hard right now when we're in the midst of it.
There were almost no injuries in the storm, a couple minor puncture wounds and so forth, but no one was hurt. There was no one's been sick other than just minor things since the storm, and the only problem we have now is getting housing built for these people, and this is coming along. They brought in materials, and the people are being able to buy up to $250 worth of materials for their house, tin, plywood, and 2x4s, and they have 3 years to pay it back to the government. So this is going to work out okay. For some of the people who have lost their house completely, just completely wiped out, the government is supplying some free materials, but these are on short supply. The clothing is all going to the people who need it first, and especially people like the farmers, because the crops are just completely destroyed. Everything is wiped out here, as far as agriculturally. The cattle are still okay, and so right after the storm there was a lot of meat in the freezers, and this was brought out and distributed. The school had a lot of powdered milk for their milk program up here, So we took that down and distributed that. So we've been pretty busy distributing food. The other night I was down, I guess 2 nights ago. It took us 5 hours to unload a boat that came in full of rice and so forth. So
For example, the things we've been doing yesterday, Greg and I worked all day sorting and handing out food to the people. And then we came home, went to sleep about 9:30. They came at midnight to get Greg to help unload a ship of supplies. He stayed there until 5. Then we got up about 6:30, and Greg went back down to work. Today I just had to wash clothes. We just didn't have anything to wear. And so I've taken the morning to do this and to try and get this tape off. Physically, we're both fine. No problems at all, except for, maybe a few cuts here and there on our feet and stuff. But it's no problem in that way. I can't say we feel very much in the spirit of Thanksgiving, which I know is coming, I guess, Thursday. And this is Tuesday. I don't think we'll observe it in the least. The people here don't. And we probably would have if this hadn't happened. I'll probably write a letter along with this. I think the book drive is... You probably feel I'm not supporting what you're doing there for the book drive. We had plans to make a tape with the people here, but everyone right now is just so busy just getting housing and food that unless I just make a tape myself and don't have people like the principal and such talk, I don't know. I'll do what I can. The library, a lot of damage. It was in a contract teacher's house, so it wasn't too bad, but the windows blew out and stuff, so a lot of the books were damaged. It's hard right now to worry about books when there's so much else to worry about that's so much more basic. But I'll do what I can with pictures and tapes. We did have this set up before the typhoon, but just everything was just, just not following any schedule anymore. We got a box today from Greg's mother. I guess my birthday box. It was mailed October 2nd, and we got it today in excellent shape, full of all sorts of foods. And it's really, as soon as we get power and I can use a refrigerator and a hot plate, I'm using, of course, fire now to cook on. Some of the stuff will be good to cook over fire, some of it won't. And then when we get our own home again, that we'll really appreciate using these things. Right now we put them in tins so the ants and everything will not get at them. I had made tapes and letters before the storm, but they were destroyed, either they were demolished. I can't remember. Some things I had in the mail, and the post office was fantastically demolished, and they were lost. Or maybe you got them, I don't know. Some letters I had at home ready to send, and they were, of course, demolished. I don't know where they are, somewhere out in the ocean or something. So I did have, things I was doing, but that I just haven't managed now. I'll say goodbye and finish my laundry, which my hands are certainly getting clean.